Welcome everybody to today's webinar, Call Reluctance, 3 Steps to Overcome Your Fear of Rejection When Selling by Phone. We're going to give people just a couple minutes to get logged in here. It's good to have everybody. This is a live webinar. If you guys want to, it'd be nice to know where everybody's calling in from today. In the Q&A box, you can go ahead and just give it a test and tell me where you're calling in from. We'll give some shout outs here while people are getting logged on. See, we got EB from Austin, Texas calling in. Raina from Oregon, it looks like. Eddie from Chicago. Doug from Mobile, Alabama. Cliff from the Bay Area. Oh man, they're coming in from all over. New York. Ben. Roger from Wisconsin. Stephen from Irvine, California. Thanks for joining us today. Looks like we got David from San Diego. Also Dan from San Diego. Great. Brenda's calling in from Kansas City, Missouri. Got Toy from Las Vegas. Jessica from Ohio. Looks like. Got any out of the country? Anybody from international calling in today? Got some people from Brian from Ontario, Canada. Got a couple from Canada. Great. All right, well, I think we've given everybody a few minutes to get logged in. It looks like we have a pretty good crowd today. We've got about 600 people on the line. And I'm really excited to have our speakers with us today. We've got Michael Pedone, the founder of SalesBuzz, and Anil Somaney from the VP of Business Development at InsideSales.com. Once again, thanks for joining us live. How this is going to work today is we'll probably be a little bit shorter than an hour. As you guys have already tested that out already, we're going to be using the Q&A box to interact with the speakers. We'd love to have you guys be able to just jot down some notes from today so that you can apply them to the things you do at work and the way that you teach your teams. This is also going to be recorded, and I'll let you guys know how to access the recording at the end of the webinar today. If you have any issues with sound, please refresh your browser. Every once in a while it freezes up, and if you just hit a refresh, it should get you going again. So now I'm going to turn it over to Anil to do a little self-intro.
Thanks. So my name is Anil Somaney, and I've been with Inside Sales roughly a year. Most of my career I've spent with AT&T, and started with AT&T in a finance role and moved between sales operations, and finance. And it's given me a great perspective on different sides of the business. And at Inside Sales, I run the business development group. We've got roughly 80 inbound, outbound sellers that this topic is absolutely applicable to. I think it was Alan from New York made a comment in there having a rough day with calls. So Alan, hopefully this helps you out. Attitude's a part of just the call reluctance and having a positive attitude. So we'll talk a little bit about that. I am also a board member over at SalesHood. I live in Texas, so big shout out to, I saw a couple of Austin folks out there. I'm a UT grad, so burnt orange all the way. Big Cowboy fan. I've been married for 12 and a half years, I'm guessing, and so hopefully my wife's not listening to this. And I have a 7-year-old son. We live in Allen, Texas, a small suburb. So a little bit about me. Michael, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, absolutely. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining today. So This is great. I love the questions that Inside Sales has up here for us for me to introduce myself to you guys. So first of all, my name is Michael Pedone. I am the founder of SalesBuzz.com. It says, tell us a fun fact. I think a fun fact is this, is when I was growing up, I actually wanted to be a rock star, play guitar. Right before I met my wife, I was actually trying out. I was on the short list to get on board with Ozzy Osbourne. So that's a fun fact about myself there. I've since cut my hair and gone into the sales world. And with that being said, what is my role with SalesBuzz? So I founded SalesBuzz as a way to have an online solution that makes it affordable for individual sales reps and companies, whether they're small business, large companies, to get expert help that they need to be better at selling by phone, to be more successful. Where I gained my experience is out in the field. I've been a straight commission sales rep basically most of my adult working life. And I do know that I'm probably a little bit of a dinosaur when it comes to straight commission. There's not a lot of people out there working for straight commission these days, back as there were when I first started. But that experience as being a straight commission sales rep is what really took my skills to the next level, because you're either going to be very good or you're going to be very bad. There's no middle of the road when it comes to straight commission. What makes me an expert is the fact that pretty much every mistake salespeople are making today, I've already made, and I have a solution for it. I come up with solutions for it, and it's a sales process that I teach that's it's adaptable to no matter what you sell. The difference is this: it's not the standard, sales rebuttals or tactics that that was all taught in the back in the 1970s. What I do is I teach a process that actually is more proactive, to where you're having more of a conversation in a logical fashion that ends up eliminating a lot of the common objections you would get normally. Where people can find my content, SalesBuzz.com. I'm told we have a very great newsletter and blog that people read a lot. So if you need more information about me or about some of the tips that we offer, SalesBuzz.com will be the place to go.
Great. Thanks, Michael. Hey, I have had some people ask what the call-in number is today. This webinar is actually only done over VoIP. So if you don't have access to listening to this over VoIP, you may have to catch the recording that we will email you a link to tomorrow. Let's jump into this. Everybody give me a thumbs up if you are ready to go. And we'll see how many people are on board here and ready to go. All right, great. Looks like everybody's ready to go. Let's turn it over to Michael.
All right, let's go ahead and jump right on in here. So here's what we're going to be learning today. So today's subject matter is about call reluctance. And so here's the three things we're going to be learning. First of all, if we're going to solve call reluctance, we have to know what causes it. Once we know what causes it, we're going to learn how to overcome it, and then I'm going to give you some tips on how to avoid it from ever happening again in the future. So with that being said, are you able to push the poll live for everybody? Everybody, you should see a poll on your screen here in a second. I want to know, has call reluctance ever been an issue for you? Meaning, is it an issue for you now, or has it been an issue for you in the past, or does it come and go? This is what we want. So I'll give you guys a second to go ahead and answer, and then we'll see the results here in a second. Now, how do we get to see those results? So I just go to the next slide? There we go. Wow. Just about everybody is saying that call reluctance. Okay, so that's why you're here. All right, fair enough. So this is a big issue for a lot of salespeople. So what I want to do is let me ask you this. What do you think, and this is where you use the Q&A box. This is going to be an interactive session, right? So where a lot of audience participation. So my question to you guys is this. What do you feel the negative effects are of call reluctance? How is it negatively affecting you personally? What are some of the things that happen as a result of call reluctance? This is where just use your chat box and your answers, and you can submit it that way. Same way you did when you told us where you were from. Confidence drops, absolutely. Makes less calls. So what I'm seeing, the two most common responses is confidence drops, less calls, less revenue, absolutely. Less sales, less revenue, same thing. Anticipation of rejection. Rich O'Brien, that's a huge one. Listen, guys, and ladies that's in here, I remember as a straight commission sales rep, I remember driving into work, early on in my sales career, where it was almost to the point where you get nauseous, right? Where you're driving into work because it was just a fear of it, just knowing the rejection, no matter what you're doing, you have this anticipation of a struggle. And I got to tell you, it's not fun when you have that feeling just on the way to work. It's not fun when you're not making sales. It's not fun when you're having this anxiety, right? And a lot of you are saying you get less income, you're feeling pressure, you're feeling fear, you're feeling doubt. Absolutely. These are all negative effects of call reluctance. Okay. So with that being said, we know that it's a bad thing. We know we have to solve it. What causes call reluctance? That's the next step in this process. We know it's a bad thing. It makes us feel these negative feelings that we have. It's not a good thing for us. So what, in your opinion, do you think causes call reluctance? I'll let you guys answer here in a second on the chat box. Afraid of rejection, failure, expectation. These are all very good responses that we're getting on here. So call reluctance. Here's what I've come up with. By the way, let me just take a time out for a second. Here's why I'm asking this question. There was Inside Sales was kind enough to do a tweet about this session coming up for people to register, and somebody online mentioned that if you're suffering from call reluctance, you just have to toughen up. And I think that's a common misconception, even by a lot of top sales management, right? Maybe they're forgetting what it was like to be on the front lines, or maybe they were never there to begin with. But just telling a sales rep who is suffering from call reluctance to toughen up is not an effective strategy to move forward, because I don't care how tough you are, how much thick skin you have. If you keep getting rejected and you're not making sales, eventually that call reluctance is going to raise its ugly head, and one of two things is going to happen. Your sales aren't going to go up, so either you're going to keep making calls because maybe you're not afraid, but you're not getting any results, so you're going to be out of a job soon. Or you're going to go ahead and get so frustrated, you might just get out of sales and find something else to do and never realize your full potential. So this is the reason why I'm asking this question. I want to get you guys to think. So what causes call reluctance? It's not an issue of just toughening up, because you can still be tough, but if you're using the wrong techniques and sales process, that's going to go ahead and you're just going to keep making the same mistake over and over again and not get anywhere. So that's why it's important. First of all, does that make sense to everybody? This is why we have to dig deep and go, well, what is causing this call reluctance? So hopefully that makes sense to you guys, all right? With that being said, I've boiled it down to two simple things. What's causing call reluctance is fear. As a lot of you answered already, the fear of the anticipation, the fear of not being successful, the fear of being told no, which bleeds right on into the next thing, which is rejection. These are the two common things that are causing you to have call reluctance. Why is this important? Because now that we've identified the two things that are causing us to have this call reluctance, we can now figure out what is it going to take to solve those issues. You guys still with me? Does this make sense to everybody? Okay, very cool. Let's move on to the next slide here then. So the two biggest reasons for call reluctance is going to be fear and rejection. Now, my first question to you on this part is this: what's causing the fear? I want to see your responses. What do you think is causing the fear? What causes the fear to start to raise its ugly head? Brian, I like that question. The unknown. Somebody said previous rejection. Justin says lack of experience. Okay, listen. Not only does a lack of experience, somebody that's new to this, sure, that's going to be an issue, but also people who are very experienced, same thing. Yes, and Martin, this is very simple stuff, and I'm glad that you agree. You're going to find that a lot of sales improvement does not need high-level advanced stuff. It's very specific, basic, simple stuff. If you fix it, all of a sudden, things are going to start to improve. One thing somebody said was fear from my manager. So the pressure of if you don't perform, that's what's causing is what you're saying. Gotcha. Okay. So these are all valid reasons for what's causing the fear. What do you think is causing the rejection? What do you think causes the rejection? Somebody says not knowing the customer's need. We can fix that. What else do you think it might be? What do you think causes the rejection? That's part of sales. Okay, so somebody else said that's part of sales. This is why I'm asking the question. The rejection does not have to be part of the sales process. This is a big misconception. One of the biggest problems that people have is, especially when they're selling by phone, whether they're cold calling or even if they're following up on warm leads, they feel like it's part of sales to call and get pushed away or be rejected right up front. And I'm here to tell you that is not the case. It doesn't have to be that way. So this is what we're going to be working on to fix for you guys. So how do we solve these two factors? We know if we want to overcome call reluctance, we first recognize that call reluctance is real. It's just toughening up is not going to make it go away. We have to identify what the root of the problem is. Fear and rejection is the biggest reasons for it. How do we solve these factors? That's the next thing that we want to get into. You have to understand something. When it comes to these two factors, we have to cure this fear. The one way to cure the fear is going to be very simple. I can get this next slide to move up. You have to cure your fear by knowing your sales objective. And this was all leading up, everything that I've covered so far is leading up to this point. You're driving into work, you have this nauseous feeling, you get in, you know you have to produce, you know there's going to be some fear there or some rejection there, so you have all this anxiety, and you pick up the and you're kind of like a captain wing it, and you kind of just say whatever feels right, and whatever they say, you kind of try to foul off, or you try to go ahead and handle it. Does that sound about right? This is where you can use your chat box to go ahead and respond to those kind of questions. This is the biggest problem right here. When you come in and you don't know what your sales objective is. So, like, for example, if I asked you guys right now, you're about to make a first-time call. You see a brand new lead. It's a cold call you're about to make. You have to call them for the first time. What is your objective of that call? I'll give you a second to go ahead and respond. What is your objective? What would you say your objective is? Now, some say close a sale, get an appointment, understand their needs, win the sale. So listen to all the different responses we're getting to one question. I mean, does anybody see that as a problem? It's one question. What's our objective when we get a brand new lead and we're calling? What's our objective? And we're getting like 5 to 10 different answers here when the answer should all be the same. This is part of the problem. We're all thinking that some people think we should be doing this, some people should be doing that, and that's where the sales process is off the mark. If you want to get rid of call reluctance, you want to get rid of that fear, that rejection, you have to have a better sales process that breaks it down to where you know exactly what steps you have to cover when you're making a phone call to a prospect. For example, if I'm making a phone call to a prospect, I know that my objective is to qualify them. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to be going ahead and asking them a bunch of qualifying questions. I'm simply saying my objective is to qualify them. Even if I'm an appointment setter, I don't want to go ahead and try to get somebody on the phone and just trying to set an appointment. That's not my objective, because why would I want to set an appointment with somebody who's not qualified? Are you guys following along with me here? So once I know what my objective is that I want to qualify them, even if listen, I see some of you saying that, well, my job is to get an appointment. Especially if your job is to get an appointment, if you go in with the intent of just getting the appointment, chances are you're going to say something after your opening value statement that's going to get a no or a pushback. If your mindset is there, I got to see if I can help this person, and that's what qualifying to me is there a problem there that I can help them solve? And if there is, once they recognize that there's a problem there that I can help them solve as well, they're going to have a higher interest in me wanting to go ahead and meet with them. Now, I have a very detailed way on how I would do that, but this is where my sales process starts. I know that if I'm going to call somebody, this is my objective, whether I can handle the sale from A to Z over the phone, whether it's a multiple sales call process, or whether my role is just to set an appointment. And I know no matter what it is, the first step that I have to do is I want to qualify them, and then I have certain questions that I'm going to do to get them to open up for me to be able to do that. Having that game plan, having a game plan that I know works consistently is going to take away the fear, because I know that my intention when I'm calling them is to help them. First of all, that takes the pressure off of me. If I know calling them is to take the pressure, if I know calling them is to help, and it's not to sell, I don't have any more pressure on me. I call them. What I'm going to be trying to do is trying to qualify them. I have an opening value statement that's designed to open them up to want to hear what I have to say, and then I have 2 or 3 questions that'll get the conversation going in the right direction. I know if I do this with the right intent, they're going to open up to me. I'm not going to get rejection. Are you guys following along with me here? Is this making sense to you guys? I know we got a lot. Listen, we got like 1,500 people on here, so it's hard to keep up with all the responses. But I want to make sure the majority of you are really following along with what I'm saying here. All right, good. We're getting a lot of yeses. That's awesome. Okay, so if you want to solve call reluctance, you have to cure your fear by knowing your sales objective. When you have a step-by-step game plan that you know that works, and I just gave you a small example of where I want to qualify, and then there's certain steps that you would go through to make sure that happens. When you have that game plan, you pick up the phone, you simply follow the game plan. You can still use your own unique individual personality and be able to execute the game plan, and now it's a win-win. You're following a proven sales process. You know what your objective is. You learn how to execute that objective, and yet you can still use your own unique individual personality. And guess what? After you run that little mini play there of your sales objective of qualifying them, if it's still a no, you know you did your job. You don't feel the rejection anymore because it's not personal anymore. There's not a problem there for you to help them solve. Your job of a salesperson, I got news for everybody. Your job of a salesperson is not to close every lead that you come across. Your job is to close as many qualified prospects as fast as possible. That slight difference in understanding of what your role and your job is huge. Because when you feel the pressure that you have to close every lead, how many of you feel that if you don't close this lead, your sales manager might not give you any more leads anymore for the rest of the day or for the rest of the week? I know that's a real feeling that's out there as well, right? So then the problem with that feeling is now you put more pressure on yourself. That pressure comes through over the phone. This prospect can sense that pressure, right? Something's off. Your tone is off. They feel and sense that you're coming from a place that's self-serving rather than helping, and now you're going to get the rejection. But if you go into this call knowing my job is to close as many qualified prospects as fast as possible, and what I need to do is to go ahead and contact them, have the right opening value statement, have the right objective to go ahead and open them up so I can qualify them, next thing you know, all the fear is gone. And you're going to start to have better conversations. Does this make sense to everybody? Let me just pop that chat box open up there again. Okay. Now, Rick, you're asking a question is are you assuming we get a live person? Here's the deal. Call reluctance is where you need to, if you want call reluctance to go away, you need to be prepared all over the place. And that's what I'm talking about with my process here. My process is where I have a solution if I get voicemail, if I get the gatekeeper, or if I get the decision maker on the phone. I don't have any call reluctance because I'm prepared for each scenario. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question? Okay, good. All right, excellent. All right, so let's move on here before we run out of time. All right, so as I was kind of preempting for you guys, your sales objective is to help. That's the attitude, that's the mentality that we have to go in. When I know I have a good sales process where I have a better step-by-step process I'm going to be following, and my objective is to help rather than to hurry up and set an appointment or to try and close them, when it's there to help, the pressure is off. They're going to feel that through the phone. Your tone's going to be better. All right, let's move on to the next one here. Now, how do we drastically reduce the rejection aspect of it? We kind of covered that in the sense of when you know to help, your sales process that has to change. It's what you're saying right in the beginning. Those few seconds after hello, my name is, you have to have the right understanding of what your opening value statement is designed to do. So many of us were taught that we have to call them, we have to do a quick introduction, and then we have to hurry up and ask them a question to try and grab tight control. Am I right? The problem with that is a lot of salespeople, first of all, that's the same process that the majority of your competitors are using when they call that same prospect. You do realize that, right? And here's the deal. The person you're calling, if they're a decision maker, not only are they the decision maker for what you sell, they're probably a decision maker on like 50 to 500 other things as well. And they're getting calls and emails all day long. And even if they're in different industries, they all basically are the same formula. You try to get them on the phone, or you try saying, we provide blah, blah, blah. And then, I just want to get a few minutes on your calendar. They hear it all the time. You sound like everybody else. That's a problem. So what you want to do is, if you want to get rid of reduce the rejection, you have to realize, one, I'm there to help. Two, I have to come with the right type of opening value statement. I have to pique their interest and get them wanting to talk to us. And believe it or not, there is the right way. There is a formula for crafting your opening value statements that will actually help you do that. But it starts with knowing what the objective is. So this whole thing here that we're talking about is you have to fix what's broke. What I'm trying to get everybody to realize, if you're suffering from call reluctance, you have your own pressure that you're putting on yourself. You have pressure from your company, your boss. You have the stress there, and you're continuously using the wrong sales process, and you just keep trying harder. You can have thick skin, but you just keep trying harder, but you're using reusing the same things that are causing you to fail, and you're not getting anywhere, and this is where the frustration comes in. And now you feel defeated. And you're worried about your job, or you're worried about paying your bills. Now, I know a lot of you, in today's market, most salespeople have some kind of salary plus commission. Am I right? That's for the most part, for the majority of the workforce out there, correct? Try having call reluctance when you're a straight commission sales rep. When it's Thursday, and if you get paid on what you do on a weekly basis, it's Thursday, you're leaving Thursday, and you have nothing on the board. How do you think you're feeling on the way to work Friday? That if you don't sell anything, you're not going to go ahead and you're not going to have any cash that week for your family. That is not a hypothetical. That is something that I lived through. And what I'm trying to help everybody with that wanted to attend today's session is this. When I was in that scenarios, because yes, those are real days that I went through. This is the strategy I used to get out of it. I already went through you just need to toughen up. You just need to, overcome their objections. You just need to do this. You just need to do that. And nothing was working. I love this one. You just need to have a positive mental attitude. How many of you heard the PMA story before? PMA, positive mental attitude. Just have a positive mental attitude and you'll be fine. I've met people that would pretend to be happy, and even when they weren't making any sales, they would just pretend to be happy. They seemed miserable to me. Who wants to walk around with a fake smile on them? Fix the real problem. Recognize that if you're suffering from call reluctance, it's because of your sales process. The process you were taught or the ones that you're using is not working. It's broke, and that's what needs to be fixed. And the good news is this. It's really easy to fix it once you learn the right process. Okay? With that being said, we're at the next slide. If you want to write this down, if you want to talk about it, with your manager, whatever, hey, I'm having call reluctance. It's the sales process that's broke, and it needs to be fixed. The final piece to eliminating call reluctance is this. So let me back up for a second. One, you want to have the right strategy going into the call, meaning I'm there to help. That's what my role is. I'm here to qualify. My job is to qualify and close, or is to close as many qualified prospects as fast as possible. It's not to close every lead. That's unrealistic. So I'm here to close as many qualified leads as fast as possible. I'm only going to do that if I'm seeking to help them. Is there a problem that they don't have to recognize the problem, right? That's your job to identify a problem and get them to see one, but you have to know what the right questions are to do that. But you're there to see if you can help them. When you know that you're calling somebody with the intent to help them, if they reject you, you don't take it personal anymore. You just move on. So once you realize you're there to help, and then the second thing is you realize you have to fix your sales process. You have to fix your opening value statement. You have to know ahead of time what to do if you call and you get gatekeeper, or if you get the voicemail, or if you actually get your decision maker on the phone. And once you get them on the phone, you have to have a sales process, excuse me, that not only will go ahead and use the right opening value statement to pique their interest, you have to know what the first three, at least the minimum, the first three sales questions you're going to ask and why you're asking them. Excuse me. That's what I mean by a sales process. You have to know this stuff ahead of time. And once you have the right opener, once you have the right first, second, and third question that you're going to be asking them, once you get them on the phone, and once you start that conversation, once you know what that stuff is, the third step to making sure call reluctance no longer happens, and this is not one you guys are going to be happy about, the only thing that I found that salespeople hate more than cold calling is they hate to role play in front of their peers. But I'm telling you right now, iron sharpens iron. This is the fastest way you will get better. You come in knowing what the objective is. I got to qualify them, which means I'm there to help, to see if there's a problem I can help solve. I know what my opener is going to be. I know what I'm going to say on voicemail. If I get voicemail, I know what I'm going to say. If I get the gatekeeper, if I get the decision maker, I know exactly what I'm going to say, right? You have that stuff written out. You have to role play this stuff. You start role playing 5-10 minutes a day in the morning and watch how fast your sales numbers go up. Yes, it's going to be uncomfortable. A lot of people are going to be resistant to doing it, but I can't stress enough that that's the final piece to take you over the top. And by the way, when you start to role play, it should be with, you don't want to be critical. You want to critique, not criticize. That's a key thing right there. Now, some of you are asking, well, what if I'm an only salesperson? Okay, so if you're the only salesperson here, I would try to role play with the person that hired you, right? If you're a smaller company. At worst case scenario, record yourself. Record yourself on live calls. Even record yourself in mock calls and listen back to it. Just about everybody has a smartphone that, if using the smartphone, they can record themselves and listen back to it. I can't stress enough that role-playing a few minutes every day is going to really help take you guys to the next level. All right. So the 3 steps to overcome call reluctance: make sales calls with the intent to help your prospects. It's going to take the pressure off. You have to fix your broken sales process. If what you're doing is repeatedly causing your prospects to give you rejection right up front, if you're hearing no thanks, not interested, we're all set, it's what you said 5 seconds before they rejected you that caused them to reject you. So you have to recognize that and you have to fix that. And then once you fix that and you have better openers, you have better sales questions, how you ask them is equally important. Your right tone, your right inflection, you need to role play that stuff. Role play, and you're going to get better. That's my 3 steps that I went through when I was struggling as a straight commission sales rep. That just took me, and I kept skyrocketing to the point where now, I'm teaching this stuff and I'm helping, lots of people overcome their issues as well and become better at sales. Now, with all of that being said, some of you might be wondering, why is it that, me, coming in with this call reluctance is partnering with Inside Sales to bring you guys this presentation. Here's a simple fact and reason why. Once you get these 3 things down, once you have the right attitude of you're there to help, you've improved your sales process and your role playing, you're getting your confidence up, what you're doing is starting to work. In today's day and age, you guys have tools available to you that I never had 20 years ago when I got into the business of selling by phone. There are some tools out there that once you have these 3 things done can really help you take your sales to the next level. And so what I'd like to do is I'd like to invite Anil to go ahead and take over from here if that's okay. So you guys can learn a little bit about some of the things that are out there that once you fix your call reluctance, there'll be some other tools you can add to your repertoire to really help your sales improve even that much further. I hope everybody's enjoyed my little session on it. I hope it was helpful, and I'll turn it on over to Anil.
Excellent. And guys, I heard a comment at the beginning that you guys couldn't hear me, so if you're having trouble, please let me know and just chat in, and we'll try to make sure that we get the volume turned up. So Michael, great job. I mean, one of the things that I always struggle with is someone who hasn't been in the seat giving me advice, and it's very clear and transparent to me that you've been in the seat, you've done this job, and you probably got the battle scars from it, so awesome job. Learned a lot from that. So team, from my perspective, I'm going to approach this from a business development perspective, and looking at a lot of the questions, they came from a biz dev perspective. I run a biz dev group, and I'm going to approach this from the biz dev perspective, but it's applicable across sales and any kind of cold calling type activity. To start out with, I'm going to tell you guys a little story. One of the things that I really enjoy doing is jumping on the phone, and I took on a call center at AT&T. It was 3 centers, roughly 350 people apiece, and it was an organization of 1,000. And I looked at that job and said, wow, that's a pretty easy gig. I should be able to do that. And my folks had some fun with me, and they said, why don't you go do this for 8 hours? And team, I'll tell you that after 2 hours, not 8, 2 hours, I very, very quickly saw how tough it was. The rejection, my attitude was down. It was I ultimately, after 2 hours, said, look, I just can't do this job. It's really, really hard. And it helped me gain an appreciation for what a lot of you guys go through day in, day out, and how to coach and how to develop behind that. So, use that as a backdrop. To start out with, we talked about attitude, and I saw a couple quotes kind of poking fun, fake it till you make it, and some of these other ones. But, attitude's really important. It's important that you keep your attitude up. Now, you can't fake your attitude, but, I put 2 of our industry greats, right, Michael Jordan and Michael Scott, on here, and you see Jordan's comments around how many shots that he's missed, how many game-winning shots that he's missed, and how many times he's been trusted. But this man, every time, will call for the ball in the 4th quarter with 3 seconds left. So this is a guy that has that killer attitude, that winning attitude. And one way or another, you have to pull that out of yourself day in, day out. Even if it's in spurts, it's okay to be up and to go down. That's okay. That's healthy. And then the second one, Michael Scott, quoting Wayne Gretzky, right? A little bit of debate on who said it, but you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Very, very true. So I saw a comment earlier about, I'm just flat out afraid to get on the phones. This job is one of those. You have to get on the phones. You have to role play. You have to just jump in, both feet forward, and just get it. Get after it. The bottom line, attitude is extremely important. Extremely, extremely important. There are 4 main elements I'm going to go through. 1 is confidence. 2 is utilizing technology. 3 is gamification, and 4 is training. All 4 of those pieces are extremely important to making sure you overcome the fear of call reluctance. So let's move on to the next slide. And confidence is king for you. So if you guys remember Volkswagen, and hopefully it's not too soon, but Volkswagen put out some software that faked some emissions testing and deceived the whole world, right? Versus Lexus, one of the world's most trusted auto manufacturers. How would you feel if you were a salesperson for Volkswagen? You'd probably shy down a little bit and cower down. You wouldn't be as confident on the phone. Versus Lexus, you can consistently be confident with those guys, and you know the products. This is about belief in your product and understanding that your product is the best solution in the marketplace. Next slide. Lamborghini, yeah, that would be nice. All right, so a quick poll question: How many of the team here is using any sort of predictive analytics to know who to call or when to call them? Give you guys a quick second to get everything in. Okay. Let's see if we have the results. Okay. So from what we see on our side, there is looks like about half and half. Most actually are not. Call or email template. Yeah, most are not. Insight Squared I see mentioned in there, but for the most part, people are not. So let's talk a little bit about utilizing technology and understanding technology to make your calls. All dials are not equal. If you pound the phones 150 times a day, they're not equal. And you need to be smart about when you dial, how you dial, who you call. So I'm going to talk about this slide. First bullet here is the best days. We've done a lot of research at Inside Sales to figure out when to call people and the best contact rates. You'll see for us Wednesday and Thursday have been the best contact rates. Now this varies by industry, and it doesn't mean that Monday, Tuesday, and Friday you just sit and research all day or prospect. You make calls on those days. Your highest likelihood to contact is on Wednesday and Thursday. Then the question becomes when to call. And this is big for our company. I see Randall, who's one of my BDRs, is on the phone. This is big for us. We have these blitz days or blitz hours. And what we do is we know what times our customers or our prospects pick up the phone. And you can see it in the slide there, kind of highlighted in yellow, from roughly around 8 o'clock and somewhere between 4 and 5 is when we have the highest likelihood to contact. So what that means for me, I don't schedule any trainings during that time period. I put all my incentive and spiffs around that. And as an organization, you will feel the floor, the BD floor, just pop up at those times. We are very intentional. And it's okay, again, to go down. Around lunchtime you're going to go down. But you cannot consistently just pound the phone day in, day out for 8 hours a day, or else you're going to burn yourself out. So be smart about when you're calling. Again, this varies by industry. Do a little research on kind of your industry and your company, and you will find that there are some sweet spots in calling. And you'll notice, actually, if you look at kind of the right-hand side of that, 164% difference in calling between 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock versus 4 to 5. Huge, huge difference. Response time. It is absolutely imperative that you call back quickly. If a customer downloads a white paper, if a customer takes an action on your website, you will find that if you contact them in less than 5 minutes, your likelihood to get a response, even while they're reading that white paper that they downloaded, is extremely high. And there is a 400% decrease in qualifying if you wait that extra minute. Call quickly. And then persistence. I saw a question earlier about how many calls a day do you make. You make somewhere, you should, depending on your organization and what markets you're calling into, what segments you're calling into. On the low end, I see folks at 80 dials a day. On the high end, my inbound team's at about 160 a day. So persistence is key. You can see here the chance of making a contact. Your highest likelihood of contact is on the 6th dial. Way too many people give up after the first, second, third dial. You see, it's a huge dichotomy on that bottom piece of that slide. People give up after those dials. If you know your likelihood to hit is 90% on your 6th dial, you need to get through that first, second, third, fourth to get to that piece. So then the next piece is a little bit of technology, right? And so we have a Neurolytics platform, and there are plenty of platforms out here that take predictive to the next level and help you through that calling activity. And Neurolytics for us is a self-learning machine that predicts who to call and when. So I heard I saw a couple questions about, wasted dials. Our Neurolytics platform has two separate parts. It gives you a neural view and a neural score. One tells you how likely you are to contact somebody, and the other is how likely you are to close somebody. And this is our core platform. But one of the pieces of our technology, you have the ability to leave pre-recorded voicemails and emails. I saw a question earlier about what's the best voicemail. You can pre-record multiple voicemails, and if you're anything like me, when you get your new cell phone, you record you record it 5 times before it's perfect. You get to do that. When you get a voicemail on the phone, you touch a button and you go on to the next call. You don't have to talk anymore. You go on to the next call. It saves you 10, 15 seconds. Local presence, that bottom left section. So when we're calling into Austin, the number that folks see on their caller ID is a 512. When you're calling into Chicago, it's a 312. So our technology masks where you're calling from and replicates it as a local number. Now this next section is kind of on the right-hand side. You see the top chart versus the bottom chart. So on the top chart, this is kind of pounding the phones at 150 dials a day, calling everybody equally, the same amount of intensity and effort around prospects. Now, if you know that they're good prospects and they're bad prospects, or they're good prospects and bad prospects, why would you not align your calling activity to be more intense around those best prospects? And that's the bottom slide. You can see your bad prospects, it doesn't make a ton of sense to go and put a lot of energy and effort into those prospects. The best ones, you absolutely want to definitely get past call 6, but even past some of those. Next slide. Gamification, and this is one that we all have that sales kind of bug at heart, right? And we all like to see our names up on the leaderboards and whatnot. And on our sales floor, on our BD floor, we've got 8 to 10 large 42-inch, 6. I don't even know what size they are. They're big, big TVs, and we run our tools consistently. And so one of the things that that I've seen out of this is people are excited about seeing their picture up. It lets you see where everybody's at. It lets you see where your next quote-unquote competition is at. And one of the best pieces of this, you can see that bottom left, anytime someone turns around and gets a new achievement, they get the ability to load a 7-second sound bite that they can play there. A lot of guys will turn on Back in Black or whatever, right? They'll get to play their favorite music, and it pops up. And I can't tell you the impact it has from an attitude perspective, from just the entire floor's perspective. The BD floor, when you start running into that, it just motivates you, right? When you hear your song popping up and people run back to listen to it, it's great. On the top right, you'll see as a manager, you get to now see how many folks are, who's making dials, how many dials are they making, what are they doing from a contact perspective, and it gives visibility into performance. One of the keys, I assume we have a couple of BD and sales leaders on here. One of the keys to this is I've had multiple times. I saw someone mention Dave Elkington earlier. I've had multiple times where Elkington's come down and said, "Hey, how's it going?" And he turns around and he looks at the leaderboard and he'll high five whoever's at the top of it. So it's great because now Elkington's high fiving the same guy that I am, and it's just excellent because there's not any discrepancy on who's at the top, who's at the bottom. It's a phenomenal thing. And then finally, you just get your top performers, right? At any point in time during the day, you'll find we just hand out $5 gift cards. It's a great way to get everybody on the same page. Now, this last piece I think is extremely important: training. So to instill confidence, to instill attitude, to feel good about what you're doing, you need to know what you're doing, right? It can't just be saw the fake it until you make it. That's garbage, right? You're not going to make it that way. You need to be smart in today's cold calling world, or in today's prospecting world. You need to be smart about what you do and very targeted and intentional. Folks get hundreds of these calls a week, and it is extremely important that you are targeted in your approach. So I started thinking about what type of trainings would be really important before I would feel confident on jumping on the phone and kind of get the mojo that I need to get on the phones. First is around my product. I need to, one, believe in my product, but I need to understand the features and functionality of it. You don't, in a BD role, I put go only as deep as the role. In a BD role, you don't necessarily need to understand the ins and outs and the technical specs and does it ride on this or that. You need to understand the features and functionalities to be able to explain it at a high level to get an appointment and to pass off to a closer if you're in a setter-closer model. You need to understand the application to the customer. A lot of times folks can say, yeah, my tool can pop up and gamify everything. What does that mean? Well, it means you can motivate your sales teams. It means you can recognize your sales team. So don't get hung up on features and benefits only. Also look at the application to the customers. It's awesome when you're using your own tool because then you can speak from experiences. And then that's my last bullet is just articulate the benefit from using the tool themselves. From a sales perspective, a deep, deep understanding of the sales motion. What causes, most everybody has a defined sales motion within their company. What causes a prospect to move from stage 1 to stage 2, or a 10% close to a 20% close to a 30% close? What are the activities that do that? And then what is business development's job in moving that prospect from 10 to 20%? What's the closer's job in moving that from 20 to 30%? You need to understand that piece and be able to articulate that. You should have case studies on hand, proof points. You should never be at a loss for good news stories that you can reference. If you get PepsiCo on the phone and you're trying to sell a solution to Pepsi, you need to have case studies for Coke or any other kind of soda company. Reinforce through your sales peers. So in the business development group, we're working really, really hard to partner with our sales peers, and we use them as a phenomenal coaching tool. A lot of times you'll find that they come into our organization, they'll conduct trainings. I saw comments earlier, it looked like positive and negatives around role play. Role play is a phenomenal thing. Yeah, a little bit awkward, but it's a phenomenal thing, and it's better to get the marbles out of your mouth with your buddy rather than a prospect on the phone. So role-playing is great, and the other thing I'd recommend is shadowing. Go find the superstar BD or sales rep and plug in with them. Go hip to hip and listen to what they're saying. Listen to the pitch. Listen to the tone and the voice inflection, and then turn around and listen to yourself. And are you doing that? Are you pitching it the way that you're hearing that person do it? From a career pathing perspective, it is BD roles, and again, I'm hitting this from a BD perspective. Many BD folks come into the role as an entry step into the company. I've met a lot of folks that live and breathe BD, but I've also met a lot that say, hey, look, this is my foot into the company. I'm going to put in the hard time. I'm going to make the 160 dials, and as a business development representative, I'm gonna get there and then eventually move on to my sales role or eventually move on to my marketing role. But I need to start with an entry step in. It is extremely important that business development folks and even entry-level sales folks have a path to a career. And it can't just be, yeah, we're going to do good by you. It needs to be a clearly outlined path that is reinforced through your management team. It's not, yeah, we're going to get you to a manager someday. What are the steps I need to get to be a manager? What are the attributes? What are the skill sets that I do really well today? What do I do not so well today? And how are you going to coach me to turn around and get to that? So you absolutely then, once you find out what you're good at and what you're not good at, it is your manager's job, it is your coach's job to deliver training behind that to help get you there. And then from an operational perspective, a lot of the organizations have coaches, right? They've had kind of overlay coaches that come and target training. There absolutely needs to be a predefined set of metrics that the coaches can look at and say, hey, Emmanuel, you're doing really, really well at dials, right? You're hitting it out of the park with dials, but I see your contact rate is low, and then when you get someone on the phone, you only talk to them for 37 seconds. Why do you think that is? And then you can turn around and start having a meaningful discussion rather than, hey, Emmanuel, just get your contact rate up, bud. Just do better, right? That's a meaningless conversation. Remote call monitoring with feedback weekly, and this is reinforced positive feedback. Giving Emmanuel that feedback of just get your contact rates up is not helpful for him, and you're not doing your job as a coach. Sitting down and listening to one of his calls and saying, hey, look, I heard that you opened with this. This was your case open. Have you thought about this one? Have you thought about this? Joey next door to you uses this one. What do you think about that one? And challenging Emmanuel to get there. And then lastly, and this is more from a management perspective, I'd caution folks behind coaching behind trends, or coaching behind kind of one-time blips, if you will. So, if Emmanuel has a bad day on dials, if Emmanuel has a bad day on XYZ, whatever it is, that doesn't mean Emmanuel's bad at dialing. That doesn't mean Emmanuel's given up. That means Emmanuel had a bad day. Now, if Emmanuel consistently has a bad day, if he has a bad day, 3, 4, 5, 6 days in a row, then yeah, maybe that's a discussion. But it's important, both from a BD mentality perspective and a management perspective, that you coach behind trends and you don't play that old game of whack-a-mole where all of a sudden a problem pops up and, Emmanuel's dials are low, and then next thing you know, you spike the dials, but his contact rates are low. It is a delicate balance of quality and quantity that Emmanuel needs to strike, and you can't over-index him on one of those two. So that's my last slide. I know we've only left a few minutes for questions. Hopefully, you guys have found this interesting. Mike Taylor, you want to wrap us up and see if we can take a few questions?
You bet. I just wanted to let everybody know that we will email a link out to today's recorded webinar. You can share it with colleagues or go back to the sections that you may have missed or any slides that you feel like you didn't get enough time on. Also, we have some downloads available today in the resources tab. If you guys want to just take a look, there's a few ebooks over there and a great video. Let's get right into some questions here because we only have a couple minutes left. And there are so many great questions today. We're probably not going to have time to answer them all, but we'll do our best here. If you guys have some questions, you can feel free to throw them in the Q&A box. But I'm going to take a few that kind of came in throughout the presentation here. So I'm going to start with this one. I'm going to push this to the slide area so everybody can see it. Can you give some examples of questions to ask about qualifying for someone who is an entry-level BDA?
Yeah, now, so Michael, if you're okay with that?
Listen, I can hit this out of the park. Yeah, I can hit this out of the park all day long. This is what I do, but there's not a simple answer. It's a process. So, for example, in this question here, can you give examples of questions to ask about qualifying somebody who is an entry-level BDA? What you want to do is have a process of once you pass the opening value statement, what is the objective of your very first question? What is it that you want? So I'm going to put the question back on the person, for example, and this is just to prove my point. What is it that you want your first question to accomplish? That's why you have to start thinking about it in this way. Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, I'm trying to establish control, or I want to see if they're using a certain product, or if I want to see if they're using a decision maker. And all of those are common misconceptions, or that's what everybody else has been taught in the industry, and that's why they always have problems. That's why the call reluctance comes in. That's where they get rejection. They're fighting an uphill battle. So as an example, the very first question I'm going to be asking, I want to ask an engagement question or an entrance point question that is going to be putting the prospect's attention on a specific problem area. So that's what the purpose of the very first question, once I'm done with my opening value statement. All right, so if I made a cold call to somebody, said, the reason for my call is I specialize in helping inside sales teams overcome call reluctance. If I caught you at a good time, I'd like to ask you a few questions just to see if what we have to offer may be of some help to you and your team. Would that be okay? There's pretty much not a VP of sales in the world that's going to say no to that. So now I got my permission, I'm in. I piqued their interest, I'm in. Now my first qualifying question is going to be designed to go ahead and put their attention in an area I need them thinking about. So my first question might be something along the lines of, well, I took a look at your website. I have an idea of what your company does. My first question is this. Your sales team, are they using the phone to set up face-to-face appointments, or are they using the phone and handling the entire process, for the sale over the phone that way? And now I shut up, and guess what happens? They tell me what their process is. Now, some of you might be thinking I didn't answer the question, but if you really go back, especially if you go back to the recording and listen to what I just did, after the opener, I piqued their interest, I gained permission, and now I'm asking them a question that opens them up, and it's in an area we're talking about. Since I sell sales training solutions, I'm talking about their sales team and what their process is. And since I asked, are they doing the entire sales process over the phone, or do they set up face-to-face appointments? It's either going to be the answer of it's over the phone, we do face-to-face, or it's going to be a little bit of both. Either way, I know the three answers I'm going to get back. I'm going to find out what's going on with them, and then I have my second question lined up as well. So with that being said, it's not of, hey, what is the exact question I have to ask? What's more important is, what is the purpose of the first question in the qualifying phase that I need to ask? And what I'm saying to you is, you have to understand that you have to put their attention in a problem area, to where you're going to open them up to create and get them to open up. I call it an engagement question. And then once you understand what the objective of that question is for your own industry, that's when you can go ahead and create that question for there. And if you still can't figure it out, I would take it to your manager. And then if that still doesn't work, if you guys realize you need help, then that's when people come to somebody like me to go ahead and help them build those questions. So it's a long question. It's a long answer to that short question, but I hope everybody understands where I'm coming from and why I answered the way I did.
Perfect. Thanks, Michael. Anil and Michael, do you guys have time to keep answering some questions, or do either of you have a hard stop today?
You know what? I can stay on for about another 5 minutes before I have to hard stop. I have to get to another session.
Anil?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I probably only have a couple minutes.
All right. We'll do a couple 4 more minutes then. Anil, maybe I'll push this next question up onto the slides here. And it's basically talking about how long do you wait between calling a person a second, a third, a fourth, a fifth, and sixth time?
Yeah. So it's a great question. Typically, we take a strategy of call, email, email, call, email, call. So I think some of this depends, one, on if you're B2C and then B2B. But typically, in general, I'm just using generalities, we'll wait 24 hours. We'll give them a rest period between the first, second, third, and fourth call, and then potentially 48 hours between subsequent calls. What we do in those kind of rest periods is we will email those folks, and we will talk to them about, hey, sorry I missed you. Want to chat with you. Is it okay if I call? And we'll take some assumptive closes in those emails. But in general, I'd say it's a mix of calls and in emails, and then somewhere between 24 and 48 hours.
I would agree with that. Especially it depends on what type of lead that it is. The only difference that I would do, me personally, being on the phone, if I get a hot lead where somebody says they're requesting a proposal, where they were looking at pricing and they want to talk or something of that nature, and I get that lead in the morning and I call them and I get their voicemail, I will leave a voicemail message. I have a specific voicemail message designed for that situation. I also have an email designed for that specific situation. So I'll leave the voicemail, I'll send the email, and then I will schedule my second attempt. Notice I did not say follow-up. It's not a follow-up call yet because I haven't spoke to them yet. I will actually, if it's a hot lead like that, I will schedule my second attempt for later on that day. Since it's a hot lead, chances are if they're looking around, they found me on Google or whatever, I'm not the only game in town that they probably went to look at. So I want to be proactive on this. So I will call on a hot lead in the morning, and then once again, if I don't hear back from them, I will try them again at the end of the day, and then I will follow the process that Anil mentioned as well.
Great. And the last one is, Michael, I think that we just had a lot of people kind of asking, and it probably is, you probably need more time than we have here in a second, is just maybe some basics on how people build a sales process. I know that we kept going back to, you have to have a process, but what are some of the key things they might need in a sales process?
Sure. Well, you need the roadmap. You need to have somebody. This is a tough question for me to ask because this is supposed to be a helpful, webinar. The reason why people actually hire me is because that's what I do. I teach them and I build the sales process for them. But I have the actual sales process. If this helps, I have the sales process broken up into 4 quadrants or categories. It's your opener, your qualifying, your presenting, and your closing, right? Those are the 4 basic, quadrants of a sales process. You need to know what questions in each one of those 4 that you have to ask, and you have to know the reason for it. Every question you ask should support the next question or link to the next question on top of that. And there's just a right way and a wrong way to do that. My philosophy that I do it is to where I'm going to be avoiding a lot of bogus stalls and objections. I'm not going to be trying to take tight control and force them into a circle, into a round hole. I'm going to be asking questions in my sales process that together we end up recognizing that there's a problem. There either is a problem or there isn't. And here's the great thing about that. The right kind of sales process, if it's focused on helping the client see if there's a problem, what's the next thing a prospect wants to do once they recognize a problem? What's the next logical thing that they want to do? What would you guys think? When you recognize a problem, what's the next thing you think naturally happens? You want to know how to solve it, right? And so now it's a smooth transition into seeing if your solution helps them solve the problem. So with that being said, I see somebody else asking, yes, the best thing if you need help building a sales process, feel free to visit us at SalesBuzz.com. You can see if our course outline would be a good fit for your team, and if it is, let us know. We'll be more than happy to help you. This isn't what this webinar was about, though. It's not a commercial or anything of that nature. So, but if I can help you, feel free to reach out. I'll be more than happy to do so.
Perfect. Thanks, Michael. Well, I think that's about done for us today. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Before you cut off, there are a lot of great questions in here. Will your system capture them, and then will you be able to send them to me? Because there's a lot of great questions here that we didn't get a chance to that I might want to write an article or a blog about and then send it to everybody.
You bet. I'll send them over to you.
All right, awesome. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate it. I do have to leave, but thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed today's session. Anil, thank you for having me. It was my pleasure.
Yeah, likewise. Great job, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. And just a reminder that we will have this recording available. We'll email it to you tomorrow. And also, Michael Pedone was gracious enough to let us have access to his slides. And I will share the slides with you as well, and maybe even an infographic of that we shared earlier. So we appreciate it. Everybody, happy selling. Thanks, Anil. Thanks, Michael.